Welcome to Christ Church. The following is a homily from our Sunday morning gathering in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Enjoy.
Sometimes the world doesn't make sense. No, I take that back. Oftentimes the world doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Father Everett is no longer with us. Father Everett was our leader, our pastor, our friend, our confidant. He wasn't afraid to ask for advice when he needed it. So how can Christ Church continue without him? Between my denial and my grief, and yes, even a little anger, I have been pondering, how do we, as Christ Church, go on without Father Everett? And the only thing that makes sense to me is to continue what Father Everett started here. In today's gospel reading, the disciples are concerned about the actions of an extortionist. John says, "Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he was not following us." Jesus rebukes them and says, "Whoever is not against us is for us." Jesus was warning the disciples about elitism. The disciples considered themselves the in crowd. In last week's gospel, they were even arguing about who was the greatest among them. Jesus replied then by saying, "The first will be last, and the last will be first." Jesus was trying to tell them that there is no in and out. There is no first and last. When it comes to matters of faith, there are two things that I remember most about Father Everett. First, he believed in grace. Every sermon that I remember hearing him talk, he talked about grace. God's unconditional love and forgiveness for each one of us. We don't have to earn it. We don't have to do anything to receive it. It is ours. There are no ins and outs. There are no firsts and lasts. Everywhere we look at Christ Church, we see God's grace emphasized. On the marquee out front, it reads, "Enjoy your forgiveness." As we walk into the building, we see the sign that says, "Welcome, sinners, saints, and skeptics." In our bulletin, our opening statement, welcoming everyone. I have talked to many people who said they came to visit Christ Church, but stayed because of that welcome statement. One Sunday, I was a door person for Godly Play, and the storyteller was telling the parable of the great pearl. It goes like this. Once there was a man who did such amazing things and said such wonderful things that people began to follow him. And he talked about a kingdom, but it wasn't like any kingdom they lived in. It wasn't like any kingdom they'd ever seen. And so one day they asked him, "What is the kingdom of heaven really like?" And on this day he said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a person who buys and sells fine pearls." He is a merchant, and he goes in search of the great pearl. And when he finds the great pearl, he trades everything he has, his money, his house, even his bed, for the great pearl. Now the storyteller begins her wondering questions, and after a few wondering questions, she says, "I wonder what the kingdom of heaven really is." And one of the children in the circle said, "Maybe it's the great pearl." But another little one said, no, it can't be the great pearl, because you can't buy the kingdom of heaven. It's free. Children, I think they understand grace better than we do sometimes. I once served in a large church where homeless people sometimes came to join us for worship. One morning, a woman serving on the altar guild came to me and told me that one of the homeless people was sitting in the pew without a shirt. She wanted to know how to get him to leave. A person standing next to me suggested that we get him a shirt instead of asking him to leave. God's grace extended to all. Father Everett believed in grace for everyone, from the greatest to the least among us. And he taught us to believe in grace as well. The second thing that stands out to me as Father Everett embraced his life of faith was discipleship. Discipleship is the intentional process of following Jesus and becoming more like him in community. Discipleship follows when we embrace the truth of God's grace. In today's gospel, Jesus is concerned about the misunderstanding his followers have about discipleship and their responsibility in co-laboring with him in God's work of justice, restoration, and renewal. He confronts John's belief that he and the other disciples are in positions of privilege. When Jesus tells the disciples not to stop the man from casting out demons, he is essentially saying everyone is invited into discipleship. I once had a conversation with Father Everett about moving godly play to the education hour instead of having it during church. Because we have so many children, it's sometimes hard for them all to fit around the circle. And we never have enough time to do our work. But Father Everett was concerned because not all the children of Christ Church attend the education hour. And so they would not receive the Christian formation that godly play provides. Father Everett believed in discipleship, and he provided Christian formation opportunities to help further our own journeys toward discipleship. Christian formation classes for children, youth, and adults on Sunday, public theology and story groups, formation for children and youth on Wednesdays. Accepting God's grace, God's love and forgiveness, and then participating in formation leads us towards discipleship, becoming what God is calling us to be and do, and making a difference in the world. Christ Church's motto: follow Jesus, love people, change the world. We all have a role to play in furthering God's kingdom, both inside and outside the church. Father Everett gave us many examples. He ministered to people who were going through tough times, prayed with people before surgery, sat with people who were mourning, supported people going through divorce, accepting those with addiction or mental illness. And he supported outreach ministries like Reading Partners, Family Promise, New Hope, and Sand Plum, just to name a few. He made a difference in so many lives. As disciples of Christ, we must continue to further God's kingdom, whether we are teens, young adults, or those who are not so young anymore. Everyone has something to offer, a gift to give. When Father Justin left to serve a church in Florida, we were worried that we would not be able to find someone to work with the young people of Christ Church. 5 people stepped up to help and take his place. We have a member of Christ Church who can no longer come to Christ Church because of her health, but she knits baby blankets for the youngest members of our congregation. Another member of our congregation had Parkinson's and was limited in what she could do physically, but she had a remarkable gift of prayer. We have people in this congregation who give rides to people who have an appointment, pick up groceries for those who can't get to the store, and we have people who feed the homeless, visit those in the hospital, visit the elderly, visit those in prison, and teach children how to read. Christ Church is one body with many parts. God has provided us with all the gifts we need to continue on. We have Father Everett's example to follow. We have Father Omar and Mother Sarah. We have Deacon Bill and Kelsey. We have Wes and all our office volunteers. We have the vestry and their wise discernment. And we have each one of you. Let us embrace God's amazing grace and strive towards discipleship, following Jesus, loving people, and changing the world.